everyone. As I started out to plan this webinar, I have to say that every time I hear the word encryption, doesn't matter the context, doesn't matter when it's brought up, my mind always drifts to cryptoviruses like ransomware and things like that. We're not going to talk about that today, but I just wanted to say that encrypting your data before it's available to cyber criminals, whether by accident, carelessness on the part of employees, or maliciously, you're actually turning the tables on these individuals and making it impossible for them to use or to see the data for their own gain or for doing this against you. Today we're going to be talking about that encryption. We're going to be touching on several different types. Data on the go, using things like laptops, information on your desktops and file server, and communication in between. Emails that have information in them that you want to secure, and data transmissions that might be as simple as sending a file to a website, or as complex as sending client or patient data to a data warehouse. So let's get started. My name is Tim Richter, and I'm the founder and cybersecurity expert for RCOR Technologies. My background includes IT and network design for companies like Lockheed Martin, the U.S. Environment Protection Agency, Duke University, and GlaxoSmithKline. I started my business more than 10 years ago because I saw that small to medium-sized businesses needed the same level of support that Fortune 100 companies had, and it was just lacking. It has become my passion to deliver the same expert service to this market. And this webinar is one of the ways that I can continue to use that passion by helping you, the professionals on this webinar today in the Raleigh-Durham, Chapel Hill area, to protect yourselves and to move your businesses out of the crosshairs of cyber criminals. And even if someone steals something, if it's encrypted, you're protected. So let's start off with a quick definition of what is encryption and how does it work. I'll try to make this as non-technical as possible, but please bear with me through it. Wikipedia defines encryption as the process of encoding messages or information in such a way that only authorized parties can read it. Encryption itself does not prevent interception, but denies the message content or the file content to the interceptor. This is normally done by using a public and private key method. The public portion of the key is available to everyone as they have access to the information, and the private decrypt key is only made available to those who need it and need to access the information. So let's get this right out of the way. How does someone not guess the private key? The most common and most popular encryption method today uses two very, very large prime numbers and multiplies them together. Now, a prime number are numbers that are not divisible by each other, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, so forth. They're only divisible by themselves in 1. And they would use, at this point, they're using anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 digits long, and then multiplying them against each other, which creates a very, very big number. I'll not even pretend to be a mathematical wizard, but I will say that it's very hard to guess what the two numbers are based upon the factorial that was created. And you might say to yourself, well, computers are getting faster and faster. Are they going to be able to work their way through this? Not really, because as computers become faster, the initial prime numbers get larger, and this method is able to stay ahead of cyber criminals and hackers alike. Were you aware that a laptop is stolen every 53 seconds in the US alone? Not even a single minute goes by without one being taken. Over the 3-year lifespan of a laptop, more than 1 in 10 are taken. Many people will say, well, I have a password on my laptop. There are two ways to get around that. First, you just remove the hard drive, plug it into another computer or laptop, and you can gain access to the information. Second, there are programs, both free and for sale, all of my techs have them, that you can boot off of a CD and change the password of a computer. Again, you have complete access to the files as you do that. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to take a look at imagine if there's private client data with social security numbers, patient records from a medical office, or court documents, legal information that's crucial to a case. There's just a whole bunch of different things. There are so many options for disaster in having someone gain access to this data. Would your business survive the cost of either being ransomed for the return of the information, or the public disgrace and lawsuits if the information was just released to the public? I was called into a medical practice a few years ago that was having some problems with computers being stolen. These were desktop computers that were being taken, not laptops. They were in a locked, secure building with an alarm system. Very enterprising thieves. They would jimmy the door, break a window, alarm would go off, and they would just run in, take a couple of computers, anything that was valuable, and be there long before the police arrived. They'd be in and out 5-6 minutes. That's right. Computers and data were gone. Thieves were never caught. And this didn't happen just once, not twice. It happened 5 times over a 3-month span of time. The worst part about it is they were a medical practice, so they had to publish, based on HIPAA rules, the fact that patient data was gone and out in the public, and they even had one of the hard drives were found and returned to them very publicly with patient letters on it. The practice is no longer in business, not necessarily because of this, but this definitely contributed to it. This is not an isolated case. Just last year, over 12 million people were affected by identity fraud, and some of these instances were due to easily unencrypted access to the victim's identity information. Now, I promised to talk about several types of encryption, and we're going to start out with what's called data in motion. This is essentially data that moves. It's either moving through your network or moving locations, such as a laptop or a device going from one location to another. Why don't we cover the network first? There are programs out there called sniffers, or they can sniff or capture packets of information as they travel from one destination on your network to another. As your computers and other devices like printers and tablets communicate the information they're sending and receiving, it's broken down into packets. This is much like the talk I'm giving is broken down from sentences into words. And you've got the best computer in the world, your brain, that is assembling these packets back together in the right order so that you can understand them. If there were others talking in the background, you'd also be able to pick out my words because you'd be listening for me, and again, understand what I'm saying by piecing it together. This is the simplest form of communication that's done on a network, and that's even the way communication is done across the internet. It's a very simple way of describing it. These programs that I'm talking about will capture these packets of information and attempt to put them back together. This is why we have an encryption password on our wireless networks, and we even have them at home, so that the communication that's at least sent over the air, when it is captured, it's encrypted, and even when the packets would be put together, it'd be impossible to understand what's put together. It's much the same. It's important to have encrypted access to websites and important information and communication down the wire in your office. Laptops, phones, and tablets are another form of data in motion or in transit. As I've said before, 1 in 10 laptops are going to be stolen within a 3-year lifespan. In fact, 1 every minute or less. So how do you protect that information? For laptops, it would be full device encryption, which essentially means that the complete contents of the hard drive are encrypted, and when you turn your computer on, you're prompted with a password. That password is considered your private key, and it will go and it will allow you access to the rest of it. If the hard drive is removed or tried to access in another way, it would just be random letters and numbers in no specific order, because that would be the fact that it is encrypted. For phones and tablets, They should have a passcode on to enter them with an automatic erase after 8 to 10 incorrect tries. You should also have access to remote wipe the device, which is to erase it from a remote location as soon as they're activated. Both Apple and Droid devices have this feature. The next thing we're going to look at is data at rest. This is where the data exists as it sits on your computer, server, flash drives, and so forth. It's inactive and is stored in its accessible form. For example, a Word document sitting in a folder on your desktop or pulled up on your screen is considered data at rest. However, once you attach it to an email, send it across the internet, that file is considered data in motion, which is what we just talked about. Another example would be uploading a file to a server. While the file is sitting on the server, it is data at rest or being accessed while it's moving from computer to server. It's in motion. The most common misconception is that this data at rest is safe. Sitting on a computer in an office, it is many times locked, many times there are people around. However, remember when I talked about that physician's office where the computers were stolen? Or what about the cleaning person whose son or daughter who is curious and decides to play on a computer? I was called in many years ago to one of the local hospitals to come up with a way of handling laptops so that a nurse could use them from room to room. What they had done to that point is they put them on little carts with wheels. And what they found is that people, whether it be people visiting patients, individuals who are going in there for that reason, is that these would be just wheeled straight out the front door. And they were losing anywhere from 2 to 3 laptops a day. Protecting this data at rest requires pretty much the same methods as used with data in motion. In addition to implementing the basic security measures such as password protection, using full disk encryption or file level encryption is the most effective tool to keep your data safe. Again, you can work on different ways to protect your computers and laptops and devices from being stolen, but we're talking today about what if. Basically, you lock down the files on the computer, server, or storage device that can only be unlocked with a password or a private decryption key. The last type of data encryption that I'm really going to talk about today is on encrypting emails. You really don't have to worry about day-to-day emails since they probably don't have sensitive information in them. However, then there are instances where you have to send patient data, sensitive client data, or other private information that you need, and you'll have to find a way to encrypt this over the wire. Now, this is really called data in motion, but I wanted to pull this out because it is probably one of the large needs of most organizations is to be able to send secure information. Now, some email servers they push the email and attachments through an encrypted tunnel. I won't get into that. However, you just don't know if this is negotiated or used, and if it's not, your information is sent in plain text. What happens is that it depends on the type of mail server. The two try to negotiate an encryption. If they can't, or if one or the other is not able to do the encryption, it just sends it plain text over the internet. This one, I'm going to say that I recommend that you work with your trusted IT service provider to find a solution that is on demand. It's something that doesn't happen to every single email because it requires additional use on the recipient's side. What needs to happen is you put a key phrase in the subject like encrypt with a colon, or you send it to a proxy address that encrypts it. And in most instances, the recipient receives an email saying they need to log in to see the secure message. They're then redirected to a secured website that uses HTTPS at the top, just like most stores, Amazon, and places like that. and that uses a secured certificate, and they can read and respond to the message. Well, we touched a little bit about how encryption is done and the form it takes and when to use it. Before I open the floor to questions, if you'd like me to stop by and take a look at your current security setup and give you recommendations on encryptions or other aspects of security, please just let me know. You can call our office at 919-313-9355. You can email me directly at tim@rcor.com. Or you can go to our website. We still have our September Snowden page up. If you go to rcor.com/Snowden and sign up for a consultation, I believe that we're giving 2 free tickets to this new Snowden movie. So that's about all I have on encryption today. Clayton, do we have any questions?
Hi, Tim. Good work. We have a couple questions.
Okay.
So the first one we have comes from Robert. And Robert writes, do you recommend one encryption package over another?
It really depends upon what you need. We have, we go with McAfee as our enterprise version when we roll it out to a customer. And it's just a way that we can have a portal that we can see what's going on. We can actually do things like remote wipes of actual laptops. We can also have a master password so that we can get in if there's any problems with the actual hard drive and things like that.
Perfect. Hopefully that answers your question, Robert. The next question we have comes from Cheryl. And Cheryl writes, how does the backup of files work with encryption?
Well, when your backup program runs, it is already accessing the unencrypted files. You've already unlocked them by going in and putting either the password to get into the actual computer or server, or if you just have a folder that's encrypted, your certificates and user and password that you've logged into the actual machine with will allow you to have access to that. So the programs, they don't know the difference. The only difference is if you would have a power outage and the computer would restart, it would sit at the prompt for a username and password, but that's the only time that a backup would have any issue with that.
Perfect. Hopefully that answers your question, Cheryl. The next question we have comes from Karen, and Karen writes, what if I forget my password/private key?
Well, it depends upon, again, it depends upon the system that you're using. One of the reasons that we use McAfee Enterprise version is that 2 things happen. One is we can create a CD with a password that can decrypt the actual hard drive. So what would happen is it would decrypt the contents, and then we could re-encrypt it with a new encryption key. The second way is that there are a lot of programs out there that allow you to have a master password in addition to, or private key in addition to the private key that you give the end user. And therefore, the IT staff could look that up and go and enter that and allow the user access to their decrypt key.
Perfect. There you go, Karen. So the final question we have right now comes from Dustin, and Dustin writes, can you come out and evaluate what I have in place and let me know if we need to add or change our current security process?
Yes, one of the things that we do in any type of security evaluation is that we're going to do a holistic look at everything. Now, granted, we'll do exactly what you want us to do, but our common way of handling this is to go in and do a complete look and say, okay, this is, you have encryption in place. A lot of companies that we go into use TrueCrypt, which is actually a broken encryption. It actually has exploits built into it, so we can recommend a new product for them. But at the same time, we'll take a look at their firewall, we'll take a look at their malware, malware and antivirus and so forth. So we'll do a holistic look at your system and try and give you recommendations so that you can become more secure from a holistic standpoint and not just from encryption or from a specific, malware or anything like that.
Fantastic. Hopefully that answers your question, Dustin. That's all the questions we have now, Tim. If somebody on the call does have questions for you, what is the best way for them to get a hold of you?
It really would be either calling the office, which I think I still have it up on the screen, 919-313-9355, or they can email me directly. That is my direct email, tim@rcor.com. It comes straight to me, and I'd be more than happy to help out.